I think almost everybody in the room knows who I am, but I'll introduce myself. My name is Jeff Grace. I am the fire captain here in Rockaway Beach, and I'm also the emergency preparedness coordinator for Rockaway Beach. Tonight, we are lucky enough to have Chole Rodriguez with us. She is an AmeriCorps member, works for the Red Cross. She wears many hats for Red Cross. She goes and does lots of different things for the Red Cross. But I'm going to let Chole go ahead and introduce herself. She gave me a whole bio, and I didn't want to read it her whole life.
No worries. Yeah, so basically, I'm an AmeriCorps member for the Red Cross, which means I kind of work for two organizations. So that's why I'm doing a lot of different things, but primarily I do a lot of outreach and volunteer recruitment, as well as community preparedness initiatives like this presentation. So yeah, today we're just going to go over preparedness essentials, how to prepare in the event of a disaster. And so let's just go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to do is we're just going to watch a short video. Basically, it's just going to go over the importance of preparedness, and it will give you a little bit of a glimpse into that Be Red Cross Ready initiative that we have. So.
How prepared are you? From fast-moving wildfires to slow-moving hurricanes, crippling winter weather to dangerous heat waves. From powerful tornadoes to devastating earthquakes, record flooding, destructive home fires, and many more unexpected hazards. Hazards are inevitable, but with the right kind of preparation, you can lessen their impact and make a difference. How prepared are you to protect what matters most? Most people say they're not prepared, but that they want to be. And others have started to prepare, but don't know what steps to take next. That's why we created the Be Red Cross Ready program. We'll provide the instruction, information, and experiences you need to be prepared to protect what you care about most. Gain knowledge and skills from Be Red Cross Ready preparedness experts in real time. We'll show you what hazards affect your community and tell you what you can do before, during, and after a disaster occurs so that you are ready to take action. And we'll practice ways to stay safe. Just by being here, you've taken the first step, because when you're prepared, you can protect what's most important to you. Prepare so you can protect yourself, your family, your community. Be Red Cross Ready. Prepare so you can protect.
All right. Just want to make sure I can start from the end. Okay, so yeah, so basically we're going to be going over the essentials, and then we'll also talk a little bit more about this kind of template in the sense of tsunami. Since we're here on the coast, that's pretty relevant here. So the fact is that disasters happen. They happen often. They happen with little or no warning, and they happen anywhere at any time. Every year, communities across the United States face disasters. There's wildfires, especially in our community, our areas, that burn thousands of square miles. Home fires also, those impact households. And then there's, the big ones, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, winter storms. So, which types of hazards are we most likely to face in our area? Does anybody have any guesses? There's no wrong answers.
Floods.
Floods, yes. All of them?
We even have an active volcano.
Exactly, yeah. So we do technically face all of these disasters. Typically, the ones that we highlight the most in our area are going to be home fire, earthquake, tsunami, flood, wildfire, landslide, volcano. But yes, we've been having those winter storms, especially in the past recent years. Just as an example.
Yeah, we had a tornado not that long ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, any types of disasters, a lot of people assume that someone else will be there to help. However, resources just aren't there to support everyone immediately. First responders, disaster organizations, government agencies, hospital emergencies, they do their best. But on average, these groups are staffed and prepared for the normal day-to-day operations, and the resources may be limited during a disaster. So the truth is we'll have to depend on ourselves first, because roads may be impassable, utilities may be unavailable, hospitals and first responders could be overwhelmed, and banks, grocery stores, gas stations, pharmacies, schools, and workplaces may be closed for days. So you may also need to help others, such as members of your household, neighbors, or those who have functional or access needs. So you can't count on receiving help right away. All of us can and should be prepared to help ourselves and our households. Will preparation be perfect? No. Will it make things quick, easier, painless? Also no. But planning and preparation will help you be safe and recover quickly. So what does it mean to y'all to be prepared? Do you have any ideas about what that means for you, what that could mean? Yeah.
Well, most of us have a to-go bag.
Yes, perfect, yeah. Anybody else? Plan, yes, exactly.
Supplies at home.
Perfect, yes. So, yeah, when we're prepared, we can take protective actions to be safe, we can react in the right ways, we can adapt to tough challenges, and we can recover quickly from difficulties. So, what does it mean to be prepared? You already mentioned get a kit. So your kit should contain supplies you will need at home or can easily carry if you have to evacuate. We also mentioned making a plan. You should identify steps that you will take to respond to specific disasters. For each disaster, you need to decide who in your household will do what, where you will go, and how you will communicate with each other. Lastly, being informed. Finally, that's important. Learn how your community, like what resources are available in your community and how you will get that information. This will allow you to quickly respond to help yourself, your household, and your community. So now we're going to take a look at please.
Chloe, can I ask a quick question?
Oh, yeah.
So who can tell me in here what resources we have to be informed? What resources do we have available to us here in Rockaway?
Radio.
What?
Radio.
Radio.
What kind of radio?
Yeah, what kind of radio?
Our radio.
Which, well, there's different. Yellow radio, what else?
Yellow radio.
Yellow radio, AM radio, right. What about
Nixle.
Nixle alerts, right? Hopefully everybody's signed up for Nixle alerts too. What about door to door? We can be going door to door, knocking on your door, saying, hey, there was an earthquake in Japan. There might be a tsunami coming. We might need to get the higher ground.
We have a CERT team.
The CERT team, yeah. And I'm sure would definitely be helping with that. Help us. Siren?
You guys still have a siren?
No, don't make me get on that soapbox. Because I will. I think that's about it though, right? Am I missing anything? Yeah. Yeah, okay, thank you.
Great, yeah, no, it's perfect. So, yeah, going into a little more detail, getting a kit. So, you should have 2 kits. You should consider this. 1 kit, but everything that you would need to stay at home for at least 3 days. And then as you're able, work together enough supplies to last you for 2 weeks. And then the other kit, often called a go bag, this should be a lightweight, smaller version that you can take with you if you need to leave your home quickly. It should contain everything that you would need to be on your own for 3 days, and then based on the needs of your household, this could be 1 kit for the entire household or separate kits for each member.
Does everybody have a go kit?
Yeah.
I'll be 100% honest with you. I have one, and my wife has one. Hers is much better than mine. Mine definitely needs some work though, and I'm not afraid to say that they definitely need work, and they need to be checked and updated.
One thing that I don't know if people consider is I also have one in my vehicle, but so that means that one's much in better shape than the one I have at home.
Right.
But then I don't know if I can get to the vehicle quickly if I have to leave the home. So it's a lot.
It is.
And if you're in a tsunami zone, you're supposed to have one up above the tsunami zone with someone else that maybe you know. in
Yeah.
the neighborhood or something.
That's something we're working on, so we're here talking.
So yeah, to build your kit, think about what you use on a daily basis and what you might do if those resources are limited or not available. Start with the basics: food, water, clean air, and any life-sustaining resources. And then those basic supplies include like non-perishables, easy to prepare food items, a manual can opener, and water. Remember, you may be without electricity and you may only have the amount of water you have stored. So speaking of water, how much water do you think you need to store? Any guesses?
1 gallon per day per person.
That is absolutely correct, yes. Perfect, so yeah, you should have at least 1 gallon of water per person per day. So half would be for drinking and half would be for sanitation. And then you may need more than that depending on the specific needs of those in your household and the environment in which you live. So does anybody have any guesses about what else should go in your kit? There's a couple on the screen, go ahead.
Pet food.
Food, yes?
Pet food, like you said.
Oh, pet food, gotcha.
Medications.
Blankets?
Yes, medication, blankets, yeah.
Flashlights, radio,
Yeah.
Rain poncho.
rain pump.
Never rains.
No.
Right, yeah. So, yeah, we pretty much got the big ones. Also, first aid kit, sanitation and personal hygiene items, copies of personal documents, medication lists, important medical information, proof of address, passport, birth certificates, insurance policies. It's also good to maybe have current digital photos of your loved ones and making sure you're updating those every 6 months, especially for children. A cell phone and charger, extra cash, if the internet's down, cards might not be working. And then, like we mentioned, at least one emergency blanket, and then also maps of the area, because again, you might not be able to access maps on your phone. And so don't feel overwhelmed by this list. Preparedness is a process and it takes time. So consider building your kit one step at a time and then focus on adding new items each week until your kit is complete. And then also, we mentioned pet food. Don't forget about your pets or your service animals, making sure to include food, water, identification tags, other necessary supplies. Like for me, I have 5 dogs, so I would need a lot of dog food, and then I also need to account for that extra water. Like if I'm thinking, I have enough for me every day for 2 weeks, but then I'm like, now I have to give water to my dog, so that means I have less stored for myself. And so no matter what's in your kit, it's important to have everything working when the disaster strikes. So you're checking the expiration dates on the food, medicines as well. Same with batteries. You'll want to do that at least twice per year and replace anything that's expired or near expiration. There we go. So we've talked about the essentials. Now we need to talk about how you might customize your kit. Again, we've talked about pets. Does anybody else think, I think somebody mentioned something specific, but I can't remember, that's okay, I can't remember. Any specific needs that are sort of out of the ordinary that you might want to consider for your household specifically? Like any examples?
Not for my household, but this is for my grandfather or other people I'm familiar with who are older and need things like a CPAP machine.
Yes.
An external source of power.
Yeah.
I actually was in Eugene when the wildfires happened, and we had multiple people as part of a group that activated to help, and we had to provide that resource very quickly for a number of people.
Right, yeah, that's a great example. So those assistive or adaptive devices, baby supplies, bottles, formula, food, diapers, medical supplies, syringes, glucometers, lancets, catheters, things like that. And let's see what else. A whistle, if you have to evacuate and there's not really a set place that you're able to get to, having that as a way to, find other people. A respirator, matches, we mentioned rain gear a little bit, towels, work gloves, tools and supplies for securing your home. These, wouldn't necessarily go in your kit, but you have them at your home. Duct tape, scissors, extra clothing, sturdy shoes, plastic sheeting to keep things dry, entertainment items even, books, playing cards, just things that bring you comfort when you're stressed. sunscreen and insect repellent as well. So these additional items can provide extra protection from the elements and help with recovery. So next we'll talk about making a plan. So different hazards require you to take different actions. For instance, during a tornado, you need to move to a basement, storm cellar, or an interior room on the lowest floor with no windows. Whereas a home fire, you need to get out of the house immediately. So you need to be talking with everyone in your household about how to prepare and respond to the hazards that are most likely to happen in your areas. Identify responsibilities for each member. Plan to work together as a team. Also, if a household member is in the military or has extended business travel on a regular basis, plan for how you will respond if they're away. Individuals with access or functional needs will need to prepare differently. You'll need to consider creating a personal support network that can help you plan and provide assistance if a disaster happens. And then remembering not to depend on just one person. Think back to those extended business things. If you're depending on somebody to help you with somebody with access and functional needs and they're out of town, then you need to provide that assistance on your own. So you'll want to include a minimum of 3 people in that network. And then completing a personal assessment of the functional abilities and possible needs during and after a disaster situation. And then you want to make sure that you're practicing that plan with your personal support network at least twice a year. Again, don't forget about your pets. You want to think about sheltering. Most, all American Red Cross shelters, they don't offer sheltering for pets. It's just a safety concern. Service animals are allowed. So you'll want to contact your local emergency management agency for a list of pet-friendly shelters. All right. And then your plan should have key specific details. You'll want to identify 2 ways to evacuate every room in your home, your neighborhood or your town, depending on how big the disaster is. Plan what to do in case you're separated during a disaster. Choose 2 places to meet, one right outside your home in case of a sudden emergency like a fire, and one outside your neighborhood in case you can't return home or you're asked to evacuate. And then you'll want to consider transportation challenges, especially for people who use mobility assistive equipment or those who don't have access to a vehicle. And an important part of your disaster plan is how you will communicate, especially with members outside of your household, if you're not together when that disaster hits. So making sure each member has contact details for everyone in the home and keeping that information readily available to them. You'll also want to determine now ahead of time what important records you'll need to take and where they should be stored, such as a deposit box, fire safety proof box, and then remembering it may be a good idea to keep copies in your kit. If you're without power for an extended period of time, it will be important to have a place to stay. It may be a good idea to plan where you'll go in case you need to leave because of something like a home fire, or farther away if it's an evacuation situation farther out. And then if the authorities encourage you to shelter in place, ensure that all household members are aware of any actions they must take and where in the home they should go. So once your plans are developed, now you need to practice. It's very different when you're actually in that situation. You've talked about the plans, but then once you're in that situation, it's very stressful, especially for children. That can be a very stressful situation. So kind of framing that in a way in practice that it's easier for them to cope with that when that time comes. So you'll want to review those plans with everyone in your household. Again, if anybody has a personal support network or requires assistance, you want to make sure to review that plan with those people as well. So then, let's see. Communication after a disaster. So since communication is such an important part of your plan, we should talk a little bit about that more. When thinking about a communication plan, you want to start by taking the following steps. So this is just an example of a contact card, but I'm sure there's tons of templates. Completing those contact cards for each member of your household and keeping those cards with you at all times. This card has room to record the names and numbers of work, school, cell phones, and you want to remember if your cell phone is not functioning or you have no power, you won't be able to access those saved numbers. And then you'll also want to choose an emergency contact and have everyone memorize that phone number if they can. During a disaster, household members can text or call this person to let them know they're safe. This is like in case service in a certain area. Sometimes it's really spotty if you're trying to send a message within your area, but then if you send it outside of your area, it goes through. So that's really great to find a contact outside of your community so that you can check in with that person and that person can be that point of contact for members of your family if you were separated. All right. So being informed. We talked a little bit about those radios, all the different ways that y'all can be informed in this community. So know how your community warns of a coming disaster. Some communities have outdoor sirens. I won't touch that button. Others depend on media and smartphone alerts to residents to let them know of severe weather or dangerous events. You could also consider a NOAA weather radio or listen to a local station on a battery-powered radio or television for updated information. This allows you access to that important information even if the power is out. You may also want to consider having a list of your local stations in your disaster kit so that you're able to, you know what stations to look for. And then you'll also want to understand the difference between a watch and a warning and how to respond to each. So a watch means there's a potential for a specific type of weather or hazard, weather event or hazard, excuse me. So you'll want to be alert, start making those preparations, monitoring that weather and local emergency broadcasts, and then be ready to take action if conditions worsen. And then a warning means that specific types of a severe weather or hazard is immediate, imminent, or occur. You should take action immediately to protect yourself when an issue or when a warning is issued. And then you can also download the Red Cross Emergency app. This app lets you monitor 35 different severe weather and emergency alerts. That way you just have that set up and you're getting those alerts if anything were to happen. Also knowing your neighbors. They can be really good resources for community information or just if somebody needs help. And so now we're gonna switch over to tsunamis specifically. I'll give you a little bit of a crash course on what a tsunami is. So it's just a series of large ocean waves generated by major earthquakes beneath the ocean floor. They can also be caused by underwater volcanic eruptions and major ocean or coastline landslides. They can strike anywhere worldwide at any time of the year, day or night. They can arrive within minutes, or they can devastate coastlines thousands of miles away. Tsunamis can travel up to 500 miles an hour, and a tsunami wave may appear as a massive breaking wave or a quickly surging tide. And while tsunamis do not occur very often and are usually non-destructive, large tsunamis can be deadly and destructive to coastal communities. So, does anybody know where the majority of tsunamis happen? Any guesses? Go ahead.
I assume it's around the Pacific Rim and the countries within.
Mm-hmm. So, about 80% of tsunamis happen in the Pacific Ocean.
Awesome.
Your safety depends on understanding tsunamis, staying informed about conditions, and acting quickly. So official tsunami notifications may be issued through broadcasts on radio and television, outdoor sirens, text messages and telephone alerts. The U.S. Tsunami Warning Centers issue the following notifications. So a tsunami watch means that there has been an event somewhere in the distance and a tsunami is possible. You should stay tuned for updates and be prepared to act. And then a tsunami advisory is issued when a tsunami is expected or occurring with the potential to create strong currents and waves dangerous to those in or very near the water. So you'll want to stay out of the water and move away from the beaches or waterways. And then a tsunami warning. That just means that a tsunami with the potential to cause dangerous, widespread coastal flooding and powerful currents is imminent, expected, or occurring. So when a tsunami warning is issued, you need to act immediately. So you need to move to high ground or inland. And then in an event of a tsunami advisory or warning, local officials may additionally issue beach closures or evacuations of low-lying coastal areas and also order ships to deeper waters. So official tsunami alerts are important, but you should also be aware of the natural signs of a tsunami because those may be the only indication that a tsunami is coming. You could feel a strong or long earthquake. You could hear a loud rumble coming from the ocean. You may notice the normal wave pattern at the beach suddenly stops and the water retreats seaward. When this happens, large stretches of the ocean floor, reefs, or harbors become visible, or the ocean may appear like a fast rising wave or a wall of water. So if you notice any of these natural signs of a tsunami, you may only have a few minutes to get to safety. So that's when you're immediately moving to higher ground and waiting for additional instructions from authorities. So at this point, we hope that you and your household have already taken the steps to prepare. You've collected your essential disaster supplies, created a disaster plan, and you have become informed about preparedness in general. So if you or someone in your household has access or functional needs, you've created a personal support network, you've practiced that with them, and are able to quickly provide instructions to others on how to assist. So additional things that you can do to be ready before a tsunami threatens your community, adding additional items to your disaster kit and tailoring that plan for what you and your household will do during a tsunami, again, including pets. So knowing your local hazard or evacuation zones, if possible, choosing evacuation destinations that are at least 100 feet above sea level or 2 miles inland. You should be able to reach high ground on foot within 15 minutes. However, with access or functional needs, that walking on foot may not be a possibility. Also planning evacuation routes from places you frequently visit, your home, your work, schools, planning ahead for accessible transportation if you need that for an evacuation. You can work with your local services like public transportation, paratransit to identify any local or private accessible transportation options. And then talking with your household about tsunamis, their warning signs, and where to evacuate to. And then you'll want to also practice this plan for a tsunami evacuation. If you don't have a personal support network for someone in your household, be sure to get that arranged and then practicing that with them as well. And then evacuation routes are ideally by foot if you can get to an evacuation area that is at least 100 feet above sea level. And then if you or your family has mobility issues, plan for how you will get to a safe place. So, let's see. Again, that watch. So when a watch is issued, listen to local radio for news on the latest information and updates. Quickly check your disaster kit and replenish any needs, any items missing or in short supply, especially medications and medical supplies, and then keeping that kit nearby. And then just being prepared to evacuate. Now's a good time to bring your pets indoors if you have any. Just being able to keep direct control over them can make that process of leaving a lot quicker, a lot smoother. And then if there's time, just moving or securing outdoor items. And then if you see natural tsunami warning signs, don't wait for the tsunami warning to be issued. You should just be taking action immediately. And then when a warning is issued, that's when you need to evacuate immediately. You're not waiting for the official tsunami warning if you see those natural signs. Both natural and official warnings are equally important, and you should be prepared to respond for both just as quickly. Also, if you're feeling a coastal earthquake, making sure that you're doing that drop, cover, hold on to protect yourself from that earthquake, and then when the shaking stops, you're evacuating immediately in case of a tsunami. And then using extra caution while you're evacuating. Avoid down power lines and stay away from buildings and bridges from which heavy objects might fall. When you evacuate, follow the instructions issued by your local authorities. Again, take your animals with you. If it's not safe for you, it's not safe for them. Bringing your disaster kit and your NOAA weather radio with you, and then going as high or as far as you can. If you can see the wave, you're too close. And then once you're safe, you're going to be staying away until local officials tell you it's safe to return, because that first wave may not be the last one. So once the tsunami has passed, you'll want to check for injuries and then let your friends and family know that you're safe. Be prepared for extensive flood damage after the last tsunami wave. Avoid walking through moving or standing water. Wherever you are, watch your step, avoiding broken glass, sharp and hazardous debris. Staying out of damaged buildings until authorities tell you it's safe to enter. And then if an earthquake in your area was triggered, Be ready for aftershocks and additional quake damage. Continuing to take care of yourself and your loved ones is also important. If you're uncertain of the quality of your water, use bottled water. Check your refrigerated food for spoilage, paying attention to how you and your loved ones are responding and experiencing stress, and then helping those who need additional assistance, like infants, older adults, those without transportation, and then again, individuals with access or functional needs. And then if you had to evacuate, only return home once local authorities tell you it's safe to do so. And then, if you've had to evacuate when local authorities say it's safe to return to your neighborhood to inspect your home for the first time, there are some general things you should keep in mind. Consider whether or not you should bring children. It may be unsafe for them, and seeing that damage may add to the stress they may already be experiencing. So it may be better to just leave them with a trusted relative or a friend for the first time that you return home. And then again, keeping well away from loose or down power lines and reporting them to the power company immediately. And so once you get home, you want to be sure you're wearing protective gear, gloves, boots, eye protection, a dust mask, a respirator, and a hard hat if you have one. But with the respirator, you should check first with your doctor. There are some possible risks there, just making sure that that's okay for you to do. And then once you do that, learning how to select the best one for you and how to correctly use it. So if the power is out, you'll want to use flashlights. You don't want to use any open flame, including candles. If you have a generator, be familiar with the operating instructions and take precaution to avoid carbon monoxide poisoning. You can also find additional information about generators and proper use on the Red Cross website. And then if you smell natural or propane gas, or you hear a hissing noise, leave immediately and get far away. Call the fire department once you reach safety. Finally, you'll want to take pictures of any damage and save all the receipts associated with cleanup and repairs. You'll most likely need those for insurance purposes. Yeah, okay. So, for the first portion of this, we've just been discussing how you can prepare and protect yourself and members of your household. You could also consider some things you could do to get your home ready for a tsunami. Homes that are within several hundred feet of the coastline are at the greatest risk for damage from strong winds, coastal storms, and tsunamis. So if you live in a coastal area and are able, elevating your home can help reduce that damage from tsunamis and storm surge events. Most tsunamis are less than 10 feet, so you don't have to raise your home too much to reduce the chances of damage. Also working with an engineer to make your home more tsunami resistant. It may be possible to divert the waves away from your property, but improperly built walls could make the situation worse, so you want to make sure that you're working with somebody who's experienced in that. And then also remembering you may need to evacuate immediately, so don't risk your safety to save your belongings. And then also you may want to consider buying flood insurance, as homeowners insurance doesn't typically cover flood damage. So we've talked about a lot of information today, and I want to make sure that you don't forget about all the tools that are available to help you. And so the Red Cross Emergency and the First Aid apps, those are mobile devices. They provide you with vital information in the event of a disaster. Both are free and available on both App Store platforms, both Apple and Google Play. And then just like with your plan, you'll want to practice navigating those apps just so that you're familiar with where to access that information. But also just remembering you can't count on technology alone. Phones break or lose their charge, cell coverage goes out, phone lines may become overwhelmed. So just being sure you think about how you will communicate if these things become unavailable. All right. So you've gotten started in this process about being aware of how to prepare for disasters and learning about the different types of disasters in your area. So to be fully prepared, you'll want to be sure you create and practice your disaster plan, build the kits, and learning and utilizing those ways to be informed in your community. So, let me see. Again, I'm going to plug this app so much. It's super useful, super helpful. So again, just the different weather alerts, how many that you can monitor, it's really helpful. It seems a little over the top, but just having that information in case is just, it's better than not being informed at all. So if you'd like any more information about this, I believe we're gonna have like a little bit of a Q&A, so I'll be here. You can also go to the redcross.org. There's lots of information there, as well as talking to other volunteers, including myself. If you found this workshop helpful, please recommend it to other people. I'd be more than happy to come back and do this again. Also consider taking the Red Cross First Aid class. That's another really useful skill to have in case of a disaster. You know, a medical crisis is still a disaster. Also becoming a Red Cross volunteer, if that's something that you're interested in, we're always happy to have more volunteers. So yeah, thank you so much for your time today, but that's all I have for you.
So I just wanted to talk about a couple of little things that you can hit on a little bit. Special needs and disability, people with disabilities. I cannot stress enough about having a plan for those with special needs and disabilities. If you try to come up with that plan when the disaster is happening, it's going to be way too late. So talk to your family, figure out what's going to be best for you. If you need help with that, we at the fire department would be more than happy to come in and discuss that with you. Another one, a really big one in my mind, is the knowing your neighbor, right? Everybody should have a pretty good idea who their neighbors are, what medical issues they may or may not have, whether they're home or not. You know when your neighbor's going to be home or gone. You know, is their car there? Is it not there? So just know your neighbor and know your neighborhood. Who's in that neighborhood? Very important. And then we just did a practice plan, right? We just practiced this, didn't we? Some of us did. Mr. Mayor.
October 17th.
Yep. So it's really important to practice that plan on the shakeout. And it's really important to grab your go bag and take it with you, because we only have a certain amount of time to get out. 10 to 15 minutes after the ground stops shaking. And it could shake up for 5 to 5 minutes if it's cascading. So we need to know if where we live, we can get out of the tsunami inundation zone, okay, with our appropriate stuff. With that being said, if your bag slows you down, you should know that, and maybe we're going to have to make adjustments to our bag so we can get out of our house and get out of there faster. And that's why it's important to do that. So, does anybody have any questions for Chloe or myself? Michael?
And so, I don't know if this has been said sometime, but you've mentioned it could be days or longer that we would be up there. And I don't remember what's been said about like shelter and sleeping arrangements and that kind of. Are we supposed to be having sleeping bags in our go bags, or what's the deal on that?
So, no. So, but you can have blankets, emergency blankets even. You're going to see a report coming out soon that I just finished writing today, after action report that talks a lot about supplies that we need to have for the future.
And that would be like shelter type?
Shelters, cots,
okay,
blankets, pillows, sleeping bags, things like that. Okay.
I can do a little bit of insight on that.
Yeah, please.
Part of my job is building the volunteer presence here on the coast, because in the event of a tsunami, the chances are y'all are going to be completely cut off from those on the other side. So if we're able to build a presence of Red Cross volunteers, that means we have people who can be trained in sheltering, and they can set up shelters here. We would just need to source those community resources so that they're able to have those. I believe we already have a trailer out here with resources.
It's in Manzanita.
It's in
Manzanita.
Okay. if we have that presence out here, we have people who are able to open those shelters and have a place for people to go to in the event of a tsunami, so that you're not sleeping in your car, in a tent. But yeah, so that's kind of the hope going forward, is to have those volunteers out here on the coast who would be able to respond in the event of a tsunami or evacuation like that.
Yeah. So I know it can't happen soon enough, but it's in the works, fortunately. Can I go over here first, Mary?
A couple of things I always have in my go bag are paracord, multi-tool, and they have small blue tarps stuffed in there.
Yeah.
You can actually make a lot of shelter things with that. Space blanket.
Yeah. Paracord is so handy. You can do it's like duct tape. You can do a million different things with it.
And a multi-tool, you can get multi-tools.
For cheap.
Yeah.
Is that like a Leatherman or something like that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they have Leatherman knockoffs that are $10 on Amazon. Right.
The one that I go to the evacuation site at the end of 3rd Street, but that's pretty far away for people from other parts of town. What is the city's plan to put more evacuation sites with food and
Right.
trailers
So-
like we have?
So,
Or containers?
in my report that you'll get soon enough, I recommend that we improve our assembly areas and add in caches of supplies, including food, medical supplies, things like that. Small little areas for people that can survive on for a few days.
So there'd be like one at the end of Washington Street?
Every assembly area. Yeah. Yes.
So yeah, that's a concern. I have to really fast and got there in time, but I have many neighbors that are older and they're, and we also live on a street where I can easily see the power poles falling over, and then where it sort of cuts us off, so it makes you, especially if there's water, then you're not even sure where you're stuck, right?
Right.
So it's a kind of a big concern, and so some folks were suggesting they didn't understand why I was going where I went, and there are people even further away than me, like from the hotel that also had the same evacuation site, and it took them a little longer. But some were saying, why didn't I just go right up the mountain? And it's like, well, because I'd have to bushwhack, and I'd have to have a machete, and that would take a little time, and I'd be gone, So
Yeah, that's going to slow you down even more.
I'm wondering if we're looking at making some trails through the various neighborhoods up to the back hills.
That is definitely something we should talk about. Yeah. We don't have any plans currently, but we should definitely talk about it. And if you would like to come into our office and talk to us about it, we can start working on it.
What is the elevation up there?
On 3rd Street?
Yeah.
At the container, I think it's like 75 feet, because my house is just above that, it's 85 feet, I believe. So, it's close. According to Dogami, it's out, I just looked at the Dogami map earlier this week, or last week. And actually that spot up there that we have the container on is actually inside the tsunami inundation zone now, because they changed that. Yeah. Nancy?
I know food should probably be every 6 months, do a check. I do all my checks in my household, April, October. I just chose that, so I don't know, could be a biannual thing. Water, how often should we check our water?
So water doesn't typically expire. It's more of like the bottle or whatever it's being stored in. So I would just kind of the same thing if you're concerned about it coming back to it. So if you're in doubt about the water that you've been storing, you're like, ooh, I don't know about this. Just resource it. Yeah, just switch those out, because it's better to just do it than.
You could treat it with chlorine too, right?
Yeah, there is, on the city website, we do have a previous, previous presentation about water sanitation that you can find on the city website. Yes, sir?
So Quadrant Street is 89 feet.
It's what, how far?
89 feet,
89?
if I remember right.
Between Halem and Third?
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Okay.
If I, might be wrong, but
Sounds right.
Yeah. Yeah. Nancy?
Thank you. Oh shoot. I know that during the drill, something that came about because I was so far away that,
You walk about 10 miles, I bet.
well, not that long, but it was with the heavy load. But the point was, biggest thing I learned was wherever you are, you got to plan on one day nobody's even going to know where you are. And it's just, you have to do that before you can get to a site.
Right.
And so follow-up, we've talked about it a long time. Still would love for us to have volunteers to identify really good zones and see
Right.
what we're
And
covering.
improved signage, right?
And, well,
The signage
sign,
needs to be improved dramatically, that I found from this last trip. So, the county has it, we just have to identify the spots and get the signs up. So, can I get back to you? TJ?
Yeah, a couple of things. Thank you for plugging the emergency app. I actually just downloaded that a few minutes ago. A couple of things I noticed. Red Cross, you guys have like a team of app developers. You got some cool apps on there. And one of them that stood out to me, two of them I wanted to plug here and ask if these are, valuable resources. I assume you say they are, but the two that stood out are Pets and Heroes for veterans and former military folks. It sounds like for pets, what do you do if you have a pet? It might be a helpful app. And it sounds like for heroes, how do we leverage our folks that were in the military or our veterans or even active at the moment? Am I on the right track and are those helpful for us?
So yes, both are super helpful. The pets one, yeah, it's like how to accommodate your pets during in an event of a disaster. The hero one is a little different. It kind of falls under, so this realm that this presentation falls under is disaster cycle services. That's one of the overarching branches that we have on the humanitarian side. And then the hero app is actually service to the armed forces. That's a different branch. I'm not super familiar on it, but you can find all that information on the Red Cross website. It's a little bit more about resources for veterans than it is leveraging them. But that's a great idea to leverage the veterans in the community.
I'm really glad I asked about that. Thank you. The other thing I noticed is you've got a great website for the items that should be in the Go Kit, like the stuff you mentioned up there. And I think anything that anybody ever at American Red Cross has thought about is probably on that list. And so we'll probably try to get that out for folks too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. We may even think about putting a link on our website if we can, and how to get to that, Mary?
Speaking of apps, is it possible that the city could contract with an app developer and make an app specific for a Rockaway emergency that would have like a map of the town on it, would have neighbors who, like we talked about, get to know your neighbors. It would have neighbors who have special concerns like a CPAP machine or whatever, and would tell everyone where the closest evacuation routes are, just all the specific stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot to
we
that. We have to be careful with that because there is HIPAA things that fall into there. But definitely a great idea. That's something that we could work on for sure.
Have just a Rockaway emergency app.
Chris?
Yeah, just another thing I do is I don't know where I'm going to be.
Right.
You don't know where you're going to be when this happens, so it's good to be familiar with each community. That's why I'm here today.
Yeah.
I live in Bay City, but I also work in North County, so I'm very familiar with.
Yeah, you're Tillamook, North County all the time.
So I'll try to be as informed about each community as I can be as well. That's okay.
All wonderful ideas, by the way, and I just want to let you know that my door and Chief's office door is always open. If you ever have any questions, if you ever have any wonderful ideas, come talk to us. And Alicia, that clearing trails and stuff, it's definitely developing those assembly areas much better than they already have.
I think for as wide spread as we are, we need more. Definitely more.
Yeah.
I'm fast.
I was impressed by your speed, actually.
Yeah, so, just getting those sites developed and getting food supplies, medical supplies, all those things, making us better prepared for, because we know, we all hope it's not going to happen, but we know it is going to happen someday, right? So hopefully not when we're here, but we can pass it on to the next group, right? Yes, sir.
There was actually an earthquake 5.0 off the coast on the 17th.
Yeah. On the shakeout day, there was an earthquake. Yeah.
And there's been aftershakes.
Yeah. So there was a 6.0.
Yeah.
But the 6.0 is 173 miles out, right? How far out is the Cascadia subduction zone?
75.
It's between 70 and 100 miles out. So this earthquake that happened, that was 6.0, was actually beyond the Cascadia subduction zone. You can ask questions, Nancy.
There's something called a tube tent. You can get them at Army Surplus. They're wonderful. They're about as long as that gray thing, not quite. It's round. It's heavy plastic. You can crawl in there. They're wonderful. And could you share with people, because a lot of us are older here, but special needs people. I'm a sub, and dealing with special needs people is a lot different. They need to be calmed. You can't rush them.
And there's not going to be anything calm about that.
I know, but to prepare and have a fidget or three with them, something important.
Yeah, I mean, that's great, yeah. You know, customizing their kit for those needs, having those extra things ready, and then that's when that practicing really comes into play, being able to practice that plan with them so that they're aware of what's happening. When, like, if a disaster were to strike, they're familiar with what y'all are doing so that it's not as much of a shock to them. You know, it might be a little bit quicker that time, but practicing that plan with them is a really great way to get them more familiar and just an easier transition if that time comes.
Right. So yeah, I 100% agree. Practicing that makes that familiar for them, so it's not so overwhelming when it does actually happen. Yeah.
I've got a question, if it's okay. I know we've talked a lot about preparation and then the immediate response. One of the things I've learned about being involved in an emergency so far is that you have people who get hurt in that process or injured. I imagine if there's a tsunami, you might need to apply a tourniquet or provide some first aid. I don't know how to do that, but I want to. What's the best way for a city like this one to begin to think about those things?
So,
Red Cross
the
First Aid
best thing
class.
I could suggest is Red Cross First Aid. We do a lot of first aid classes. Those do cost money, but there's also a first aid app. That'll give you a lot of resources for handling any sort of injuries in case of an emergency like that. So if at the bare minimum having that app at the ready, that can give you some navigation on how to respond to certain injuries and stuff like that. The tourniquet one especially, yeah. So those would be my suggestions.
Yeah. So a future education night we could do would be a stop the bleed class also. And I could actually do that. Chris.
Just took a wilderness first aid in Bay City, so be on the lookout for classes like that because they're being offered in different communities. They're paid for by again, like some grant was available. So if you keep your eyes open on each of the websites for the cities and different places, resources, and you can find those things out too.
I missed that one. That was Romy's crew, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because TJ was in Bay City also.
Oh yeah. There you go.
Yes, sir.
Chris said the word,
Okay. You beat you to it.
a wilderness emergency
Right.
things, and they go around here a lot.
Yeah, there's been about 3 or 4 classes in the last 6
I've
months.
taken a couple of those, and they're very comprehensive.
Yeah, and it's something we can think about doing in Rockwood too. And I mean, I could, like I said, I can do a stop the bleed class. Yeah. I have that training. Or I can make McKinsey do it. Everybody look at McKinsey. Okay, any other questions? Well, this has been great. Thank you so much, Chloe, and thank you all for being here tonight. I really appreciate that. I can't remember your dog now.
It's quite. He wants to say hi.
Yes, I see that. I know I've been in the hospital. No, but thank you all for being here, and thank you everybody that's been online watching. We did do a Facebook Live for this, so for the people that could not be here tonight. And we're also going to have, I want to thank Bill. He puts together the video that goes on to the city website. We have some snacks up there. We have some coffee. Feel free to help yourself. And if you have any more questions for us, don't hesitate to ask.